teacher ended up walking into the classroom. I remember we all looked at her with our mouths wide open, wondering, is this teacher really a teacher? Because she's way too hot. Yo, what is going on? You guys, my name's Bubba, and welcome back to another super embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back in my grade 8 year, and I remember in grade 8 we had a class called acting, or drama, to be honest. It was called drama, but in the class all we did was acting. And I remember this was a whole new unit that our school brought into the school for our grade 8 year, and it was super exciting to a lot of us because a lot of us, I guess, in school wanted to become actors.
Bro, I feel like it's not if you want to become actors, you just want to temporarily try it, which I
To be fair, I mean, who doesn't want to be an actor on like one of those Netflix kid shows? Because, well,
why the fuck would I want to be on a Netflix kid show? I will be in a movie, but
I don't know. I guess all of us at the time wanted to be on Disney Channel, and I guess our school just wanted to show us how anyone could become an actor. But I remember in my grade 8 year, when it was our class's turn to basically go for the drama unit, we all were super excited. We ended up all lining up in a straight line, heading down the hallway to the theater classroom that they ended up making for us. When we got there,
yeah, guys, if your face ends up on Netflix Kids,
we all really liked the classroom, and we were all excited to start this new unit. And to be honest, I was kind of nervous because, well, to be honest, I don't think I'm a good actor, nor do I ever expect to become an actor.
Yeah, you're not a good actor at all. You would never be. Why do you look like you have pee all over your damn face? Holy shit.
But I will say this, I was kind of excited to learn how to basically talk to a wide audience without stuttering, because I had a really bad stutter issue back when I was younger. I mentioned this many times
yeah, maybe you should
on the
go
channel,
to a
but
speech impediment.
still, to this day, I still have problems stuttering. Luckily, you guys don't hear it because, well, all of it gets edited out, but that's thanks to the editors. Thank you guys. Going on though, I remember when all of us were sitting in a circle, all waiting for our teacher to walk in. We were all just questioning who the teacher was going to be. A lot of us thought it was going to be some old guy that, like, you know, retired from acting, or maybe it was going to be a famous actor that was going to be our teacher. But one thing led to another. When the door opens of the class,
it was a random
and when this
lady.
person walks in, all of us had our mouths wide open and dropped to the ground because we noticed that this teacher was way too hot.
Bro, you are way too much into detail, bro. Literally went on the
Be our
floor
teacher.
begging
I remember she
for
walked
mercy.
in and she like had this dress on and she was so attractive, big cherries and a nice peach, and oh my goodness, I really can't describe how attractive she was because she was too perfect. Like, she's one of those girls that would be on the cover of Vogue. Like, that's how attractive she was.
Bro, Vogue was not good, bro.
And me and all my friends were just in shock and couldn't stop staring at her because she was too hot. I remember all of us were just freaking out and really excited to learn from this teacher, and that's when I realized that my favorite class in my grade 8 year was drama. But let's just say all things weren't as great as they seem, because later on throughout the school year, I remember a lot of the girls in my class actually ended up hating drama. And actually, girls in grade 8 started skipping drama class because they didn't want to see the boys in there all basically drooling for this hot teacher that was really attractive. I remember a lot of like girls actually started like combining their heads together and trying to figure out who this teacher really was. But the thing about this teacher that we found really funny was that
So now the girls are lesbian too. They're trying to put all their heads together to figure out who she is and why she's so...
she actually never really talked about herself, meaning that she never talked about her personal life like most teachers do, or talk about, you know, their families or nothing. This attractive woman that was our teacher would only walk into the classroom, teach us what we need to learn, and walk out. But I remember there was one day where one of my friends actually ended up walking up to me. They walked up to me and said, "Yo, Bubba, I think her teacher's like way too hot to be a teacher." No, duh. Like, look at her. She's so hot. Yeah, I know, but like, dude, the girls are saying that like she's like a
Sorry, your friends sound like dorks.
supermodel. A supermodel is teaching her class? That makes no sense. I could see her more as like an actor because she's teaching us acting. No, Bubba, trust me, bro. This chick is a supermodel. We're gonna figure out how. I remember I started questioning how we were gonna do this and basically like, what are we gonna do? And what he ended up having in mind was something that I would say was pretty illegal. Because I remember the next day right after class,
Okay, so you're the one to say that something's illegal. So you remember when you were 19 and played with a 12-year-old, right?
This teacher ended up basically walking out, this hot supermodel lady, and all the boys were just like, you know, staring at her walking out. But my friend ended up grabbing me by the hand, and he ended up actually dragging me behind the teacher, and we started following her. We started following her, and we started to realize that when we actually ended up going outside of the school, we saw that she got picked up by a limo. And this dude that was like basically opening the door for her was this really like giant, like scary dude that was honestly terrifying. Like he looked more like a bodyguard than a actual like limo driver. I remember my friend looked at me and punched me on my shoulder saying, "See bro, I told you she's a supermodel." Dude, what do you mean actors go in limos? No, but trust me bro, like I swear I've seen her somewhere before, I just don't know what. When he said that, we were questioning everything. We were trying to figure out where this teacher was from, and you know, is she really just some supermodel? And what we ended up
Bro, so now he's literally
finding out was actually really insane, because I remember later on after school that day, me and him, we actually ended up heading over back to his place. We ended up going to his place, playing some video games, but then my friend ended up grabbing his dad's laptop, and he ended up bringing up to me saying, "Bubba, we're gonna figure out who this teacher is." You want to figure out who the teacher is? Bro, she already told us her name. We ended up searching her name all throughout the internet, and we started to realize that this teacher had nothing attached to her name, meaning that no matter how many times we searched this teacher's name, nothing would pop up. Not Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform. She didn't have it. And at this moment, it made no sense to us because, well, what kind of teacher didn't have social media? All the
Bro, like every teacher, maybe some
other teachers in our school had like really weird mom Facebook pages about posting her kid. Or if they were single teachers, then they would be posting their cats. But we had no idea who this teacher really was until I remember the next day ended up happening, and we ended up going to school, and one of the girls that would always skip drama.
This is how you know this guy stalks all his teachers' pages, because how would you know that they're posting
a class because she hated the teacher, ended up walking up to us saying, "Yo guys, I want to show you something really cool." What do you want to show us? Me and my buddy and this girl, we all ended up heading to the computer lab, and when we sat down, she ended up searching up a website that was definitely not for kids. And when we hopped on that website, it was a modeling website, which my friend was right about. She was a model, but what we ended up seeing was that this modeling was very, very sus, because the modeling she would do was, well, modeling with nothing on. So in reality, she was modeling herself with nothing on. When we found this out,
yeah, dude, you could just say she's
it broke our minds. And actually seeing our teacher not wearing anything on the screen was mind-blowing.
What do you mean? I know you already enjoyed it, and it's just
my friend looks at me saying, "Yo, Bubba, she looks better without anything on, bro. This is awesome." Yeah, it's cool, but like, should we really be seeing this right now? Bubba, what do you mean, bro? It's our teacher. She's totally cool with it.
Bro, teachers are literally looking at your screen right now while you're
a role model. I remember me and him, we started laughing at the joke of, you know, her being a role model when in reality she was a Devil's Tango model. But I remember we were very just excited to learn this new information. But the girl that was with us and showing us this, well, she got really angry. She got super upset and looked at both of us and said, "Boys, don't you realize what this means? She is a Devil's Tango model. Like, this is illegal, and she's in the school system." I'm gonna tell the principal about this. I remember me and my buddy basically tried to stop her and basically tried to convince her how she's a great teacher and just give her a chance, and she's nothing like that in the classroom, and basically tried to find any way to make this girl not want to tell the principal because, well, she was a hot teacher, and that was very rare, at least for middle school. I remember this girl just ended up, you know, rolling her eyes, but later on we realized that she ended up doing.
Guys, this is kind of fake though. In middle school, if he's actually 23, then Pornhub was not out yet. And yes, I just said it. It was 26.
Something that embarrassed the teacher heavily. I remember the next day came around and we all ended up going to drama class and we all sat down in a circle. But one thing that was very odd was that all the girls that originally hated this teacher was actually there. But one of the girls that ended up walking in, the one that showed us, you know, the website that she was on, ended up showing up with a document. Now this document was, well, let's just say the end of this teacher's career, or this model's teaching career, I should say, because when the teacher walks in, all the girls girls ended up grabbing a piece of paper from this document of a photo of this teacher printed in black and white, wearing nothing on the photo, by the way, that they had on their piece of paper, and started running around the classroom showing off everybody. This teacher got super embarrassed and actually ended up going to the principal. But right behind this teacher was the girl that showed us originally, and she showed the principal what kind of model she was, and instead of the girl getting in trouble, our model teacher got fired. I guess that's what happens when you become a really sus.
Why would the girl get in trouble, man? She's just a messenger.
Model
just
on the
like
internet,
I'm
but at the same time, like, I mean, it was kind of her decision to teach us, right? I don't know. It kind of sucked how the girls had to ruin that for us. And actually, the next year later, the middle.
YouTube, you're never gonna see this probably, but can you get this man off this platform, man? Like, he's been talking about the Devil's Tango.
School didn't have drama class anymore after that incident, but hey, if you want a hot model teacher, just subscribe for more embarrassing stories. So many people in their lives have secrets. Even I have my secrets. But today's story is about how I found out my teacher's secret. Or in reality, it was my substitute teacher, but close enough. But before I do get into the story, make sure you guys do leave a like. Teacher was a Devil's Hub star, and the way this ended up happening was super weird. I remember one day I ended up going to physical education class, or PE as people would say, and when I went there, I remember our teacher that we originally had, the old sweaty guy that no one liked, wasn't there. I remember me and my class, we all stood around the gym not knowing what was going on until out of nowhere a really hot blonde walked in. Now no one recognized
Man, I thought he was gonna say really
this girl, and she wasn't that tall. So us thinking that she was another student, I remember I walked up to her and said, oh yeah, the teacher isn't here yet, so you're not late, but honestly, like, whoever this teacher is, bro, is mad dumb. I remember the girl ended up looking at me and said, you do realize I'm your teacher, right? Huh? Is what I said. And then that's when I figured out that she was a substitute teacher filling in for our old man teacher that no one liked. I remember I looked at her and said, oh, sorry, I didn't know, is what I said. And she said, oh, like, just don't worry about it. Anyways, I remember basically from there, we ended up basically getting an introduction.
If my teacher was like, okay, okay, don't worry about it.
And people called her Mrs. M. She didn't want to say her actual name for some reason, which I guess we kind of respected, but we didn't understand why. Going on from
Because she's Mrs. Mandarin.
there, I remember basically we did the class. We, you know, ran around the gym, we played dodgeball, and that was basically it. But I remember after class, when class ended, all the guys went to the locker room to basically get changed to normal clothing since we were in our PE class clothing. And out of nowhere, when all the guys were in there changing their clothes, one of the really weird guys in our class, kind of like a nerd, but more, I guess, creepy in a way, ended up speaking up saying, did no one recognize who our teacher just was? I remember all the guys started looking at him thinking, what is he talking about? And then that's when he said, bro, don't you know, like, our teacher's literally a hub star. When he said that, we all started laughing. Yes, the teacher was really hot, but there's no way the school would invite someone that was literally on the Devil's Hub into our school. So obviously none of us believed him. But what ended up happening later on, well, proved he was right. I remember what ended up happening was the next day at school, a lot of us went to class early, and the rumor went around that the teacher was a Devil's Hub star. But obviously no one actually believed it. So as we got ready for PE class, I remember what I decided to do was some investigating. I remember instead of getting changed, I got changed a bit earlier just so I could be at the gym early. And me, instead of waiting in the gym, I decided to walk around and go to the gym office because obviously the gym teacher has his own office. When I went in there, I remember no one was in there. It was just an old, stinky, empty office. So what I decided to do was look around and see if there was any evidence of what the guy said being true.
That song is so familiar. What's it called? Get the Google app. Tap the mic, and then hum a few lines. Right, it's Come On Eileen. And now you know who sang it, too.
As I was walking around and looking at, you know, basically papers and flyers, one thing I realized was that Mrs. M's last name, because apparently it was on a sheet of paper that had, you know, the class list. So when I looked at her name, I remember I pulled out my phone and took a picture of her name on the top of the paper. When I got it though, I remember I accidentally moved the mouse on the computer, and what I saw really freaked me out because right as I moved it, I remember the screen turned on and Mrs. M's video was literally playing. And if you guys are wondering what video, it was literally her doing the Devil's Tango with 6 other guys. Like, holy cow, dude. I remember I started freaking out and I instantly closed the browser. And when I did, I basically ran out of the office as fast as I could. But as I was about to run out, I ended up bumping into Mrs. M. She looked at me kind of awkwardly saying, Bubba, why were you in my office? No reason. And I ended up going straight to the gym and basically started getting ready for class.
Bro, this guy is so weird, bro. Like, why do you go so much into detail with everything? How do you remember?
All the students were standing around as well, waiting for class to start. And I remember I walked up to the kid that mentioned that Mrs. M was literally a ass. I remember all the students were standing around office. No reason. Yeah, I did see the video, is what I said. And at that point, I remember he started laughing. And when he started laughing, I remember Mrs. M was in front of the class and saw us both laughing. At that point, I remember she looked at both of us and said, Bubba, is something funny you want to say to the class? At that point, I went quiet. I didn't say anything. But then afterwards, I remember the kid beside me that mentioned it said, Mrs. M, how do you walk every day? I remember I looked at the kid and I'm like, gosh, this guy really has some balls. But then Mrs. M didn't know what he was talking about, so she kind of just put it aside and said, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but I walk with 2 legs. Going on from there, I remember basically after...
Yeah, Mrs. M, he's not talking about 2 legs. And I think the audience that's probably watching
in class that day, me and all the guys went back to the locker room. And I decided to express my amazing discovery to the whole entire guys' locker room. Wow, we're really messed up in there, aren't we, boys? But going on, I remember I ended up pulling out my phone and showing the video to basically everyone in the locker room. We were all watching this video and we were all freaking out saying, no way, that's our teacher? But this is where things get really bad because out of nowhere,
yeah, it's the 3'9"
I remember Mrs. M ended up walking into the boys' change room. She walked in there because apparently our audio was too loud and she knew what we were watching. And when she walked in there, she walked up to me and said, Bubba, detention, now. Which honestly surprised me because
how is he in trouble? Hold on. This is when I'm on Bubba's side. How is she in trouble?
usually if you do something bad to a teacher, you would get sent to the office. But me, I got sent to detention because she wanted to sit down and talk to me throughout the whole school day about what privacy means and basically teach me lessons about privacy, which is kind of funny because she's literally an internet Devil's Tango.
What does she mean by privacy? Bro, you know you're dingling and you're
Star, like what did she really expect from a bunch of teenagers? Okay, so today's story, honestly, I'm just gonna quickly explain that
You didn't even fucking tell us anything else, guys.